India is changing at an amazing speed. Impressive economic growth over the last 2 decades has brought money to invest in infrastructure like roads, water, and sanitation. Many are benefiting from new jobs, and poverty has progressively declined. Not everyone experiences the benefits of economic growth the same way. The government has begun to invest in programs focused on such things as the right to employment and food for everyone. Economic growth has also adversely impacted the environment and the livelihoods dependent on it. Yet little has been done to address these concerns. More needs to be done to support communities across the semi-arid regions of India, particularly in a changing climate. India's temperature has been increasing since 1971 and particularly dramatically from 1998. In some semi-arid areas, the temperature has increased at a faster rate than across the rest of India. Scientists can project how this will continue. They say by 2050, average temperatures in central and northern India will be at least 2 degrees higher than pre-industrial times. India's semi-arid areas have experienced irregular but increasingly extreme rainfall and heat waves in recent decades. The monsoon season is also changing, showing a weakening trend and becoming less reliable. And because of climate change, this picture is set to continue. The changing climate has an impact on many aspects of life and increases our risk and vulnerability in various ways. For example, agriculture is profoundly influenced by high temperatures and a variable monsoon. Temperature increases will shrink crop yields. Heat stress affects India's large number of cattle and is also an issue for people. And with more flooding, these conditions can cause the spread of diseases like malaria or waterborne illnesses. As cities expand quickly, new risks are created. When buildings are so close together, heat is felt particularly intensely. Many find themselves living in poor and insecure housing, with little or no access to water, sanitation, or jobs. And extreme weather and flooding can contaminate water sources and spread disease or harmful substances such as sewage. Changes to the monsoon can also affect the city's water, food, and the rate of migration. Women and men are affected differently by these changes. Fewer available water sources may increase the burden on women to find and bring water to their homes. People are vulnerable, but there are many ways they are tackling the climate problems they face. Growing cities can help the countryside cope by providing better links to markets and job opportunities beyond farming, as well as remittances from migrants and better prices for land. In some places, farmers get text messages with market information, good management practices, and information about coming pests or diseases from the local agro-advisory. They also keep track of the weather from stations in their own gardens in order to better cope with stresses in the agricultural sector. In Maharashtra, a village community has worked together to regulate the use of wells close to their public drinking water source and restoring a percolation tank to ensure they have year-round access to water. Scientists are working on drought-resistant crops to better cope with high heat and erratic rains. Storing seeds and food to provide steady sustenance when the harvests are poor is another option. Slum community members in Bengaluru have worked together to build small drain channels for rainwater to flow out so their homes don't flood. This investment in their homes and surroundings became possible now they own their land and houses. Bengaluru, a well-known global center of technology, is one of the fastest growing cities in India with a population of nearly 10 million. A hotbed of economic activity, the city attracts many people, creating a unique mix of entrepreneurial spirit, skill sets, and a growing demand for goods and services. While temperature has been increasing in Bengaluru over the past 30 years, annual average rainfall has decreased since the 1950s. Along with dwindling natural water bodies like lakes, this may worsen water stress. Increased built space and reflective surfaces change the local climate, further increasing temperature and irregular and untimely rainfall. Anita and her family moved to Bengaluru a few years ago. Her husband, Ramana, was finding it impossible to make ends meet as a farmer in North Karnataka, where persistent drought has made agriculture untenable. Before moving to Bengaluru, Ramana and Anita would travel there during lean agricultural seasons for temporary work. They witnessed an explosion in construction, more roads and lakes getting polluted or drying up. Trees are regularly cut down, resulting in less shade and a harsher microclimate. Anita is now a domestic worker, and as she walks to work, she notices the city heating up more, and the deteriorating air quality makes her cough. Housing costs in the city are so high that Anita and Ramana have to rent their one-room house beside a public garbage dump and an open drain on the city periphery. Like the 500,000 others who live in informal settlements in other unsafe areas, they have no regular clean water supply or access to other public services like community toilets or sewage disposal. Ramana and Anita have to buy water from a private supplier at a high price and store it for later use. Poor water quality and unsanitary conditions have made the family prone to illnesses like diarrhea, malaria, and dengue. Since moving to Bengaluru, Anita has noticed the heavy rains change. Each time they occur, the low-lying slum she and her family live in floods because new buildings have taken over natural floodplains and drainage channels. The risk of her children getting sick from waterborne diseases is always close to her mind. When anyone in the family is ill, Anita has to care for them, missing work and losing her income. Multiple institutions manage Bengaluru's growth and development, but competing agendas and overlapping jurisdictions leave large gaps in service provision. Slums like Anita and Ramana's aren't even reached by municipal services, leaving their family with no clean water, sewage solutions, rubbish collection, healthcare, or schools. The Moa-Bavani semi-arid sub-region straddles the states of Tamil Nadu and Karnataka, and the landscape ranges from tropical moist deciduous forests and dry scrub to extensive plantations and agriculture. There is diverse wildlife, but few people along the Moa River compared to the densely populated areas along the Bavani River. These two regions have people from diverse communities, including forest-dwelling communities such as the Kurumbas and Irulas, and traditional agrarian communities such as Gundars and Velalaras. In Moa-Bavani, temperatures have been rising over the last 50 years, and the timing and intensity of the rains is changing. The moderate rains that crops need aren't happening as frequently. This negatively impacts food and fodder production like rice, red gram, maize, and millets. Kavita and her husband Kanan are from the Irula tribe and have lived in the area all their lives. Traditional livelihoods in the region, such as farming, forest resource-based products, and pastoralism, are increasingly untenable due to changes in climate. Consequently, their children have migrated out looking for work, leaving them behind to farm. Kannan is finding that even subsistence farming is becoming less viable since his land isn't irrigated and he can't rely on the rains. Kannan and Kavita's crops have also often been damaged by elephants and wild pigs in recent years. These conflicts between humans and animals could be caused by changes in their habitat, including a spread in invasive species. To cope, Kavita now collects broom grass and gooseberry to supplement their declining farm income. Traditional farming methods are being lost as farmers increasingly consider alternative livelihood options, including migrating to cities. Livestock owners are struggling because fodder and water are scarce, and there are restrictions on the grazing commons after the declaration of the Satyamangalam Tiger Reserve. The government of Tamil Nadu has implemented a number of initiatives to reduce the impact of climate uncertainties, such as crop insurance schemes and improved crop management practices. But these haven't been very effective as there has been a slow uptake and inadequate policy support for farmer cooperatives and knowledge sharing. The mainly rural Sangamner sub-region within Ahmednagar district of Maharashtra is drought-prone and exists in the rain-shadow portion of the Western Ghats. Water availability and management is a critical concern impacting crop yields. Subsequently, many farming families search for work in the neighboring districts or migrate towards cities. The Sangamner sub-region is seeing a trend of rising temperatures and variable and unseasonable rains. Intense rain followed by more dry days is also expected to increase. As a result, crop yields are expected to fall. Omkar and Gayatri have always been farmers growing cereal crops, pearl millet, sorghum, and fodder crops. Nowadays, they are beginning to grow vegetable crops like onion and tomato too, which fetch good prices in nearby market centers but aggravate the problem of water scarcity. Both Omkar and Gayatri, along with their community, have participated in watershed management programs to improve water use and availability at home and on their land. All this has improved their situation in the short term. Omkar and Gayatri, like everyone in their region, live in constant risk of drought. Crop yields in Maharashtra are lower than the national average. Groundwater is severely depleted and even drinking water is at risk, particularly during the summer months, and tankers are needed to bring water to the village. During these periods, Gayatri often has to walk long distances to fetch water from the few remaining sources. Omkar and Gayatri are more vulnerable than bigger farmers and fear being pushed into debt if their crops and cattle fail. Even with government support, Omkar and Gayatri lack the finances to make a farm pond to store water for the entire year. Since one of their neighbors regularly fills his farm pond using groundwater, Omkar and Gayatri's well has begun to run dry. They want to join a village committee to share the management of their natural resources, but there isn't one. ASAR is a project that brings together researchers and practitioners to examine how the climate is changing in semi-arid regions and the challenges this will bring for different groups of people. We want to understand how to face the challenges we have looked at, the factors that make a real difference in being able to adapt to these impacts, and how to improve people's well-being. In Bengaluru, we are focusing on understanding how the different risks people face make different people vulnerable, and what people are trying to do to cope or adapt to these conditions. In the Moa-Bavani sub-region, we're also trying to understand the changes in climate, particularly the less studied northeast monsoon, and how communities are impacted and how natural ecosystems respond. In the Sangamner sub-region, we are particularly looking at water management and the vulnerability of rural livelihoods. By working closely with people across different groups, we aim to bring about real change.